When you think of the great feasts of antiquity, what comes to mind? Perhaps a Greek symposium with naked marble statues scattered around the room and goblets of sweet wine being passed between laughing philosophers. Or maybe you're thinking of those legendary Viking feasts, where hardy warriors sat around a long ship drinking huge tankards of ale, while a bard played music on a huge drum made of a human skull. There are indeed many great feasts from different eras of history that we could have chosen to depict here today. But instead, we decided to paint one of the most dramatic and sumptuous feasts ever held in the ancient world. Welcome to Rome under the Julio-Claudians, where emperors dine in splendor while plotting to kill each other. Let's get started. The decadent banquets of Roman emperors like Caligula and Nero have become legendary for their lavish displays of wealth and excess. While these scenes of debauchery have been immortalized in literature and sculpture, they remain largely underrepresented in painting. In fact, the only paintings we have showing the extravagant table settings and costuming of these feasts are the few official Roman portraits of the Julio-Claudian dynasty. So today we're going to use these portraits as inspiration to fill in this gap and give viewers a glimpse into the dining halls of the Julio-Claudians. In the center of our painting, we will show two emperors dining together in friendly camaraderie. At the table's head sits Augustus, the first emperor of Rome, whose dynasty would last for over 2 centuries. He is surrounded by members of his family and close advisors. To his right sits his stepson, Tiberius, who will succeed him as emperor, and to his left sits his grandnephew, Caligula, who will follow Tiberius. The 3 men are all related by blood or marriage, which is a prerequisite for becoming Roman emperor during this period. Each emperor is dressed in a fine linen tunic and a purple toga, the traditional garments of the Roman aristocracy. Augustus wears a crown of laurel leaves, a symbol of his power and authority. The other 2 men are not yet crowned emperors, so they do not wear laurel crowns, but they do wear simpler wreaths of flowers. Their dress is not the most expensive or luxurious available to them, but it does make a statement about their status and power. It's similar to how modern politicians often wear expensive suits or designer dresses to public events. Their clothing choices are a way of communicating their power to the public and to other members of the elite. Across from them sits a member of the imperial bodyguard. He too is dressed in fine clothes and is unarmed, signifying that he is off duty. In front of him and the other 2 men are elaborate dishes filled with roasted exotic animals and fruit. On the far side of the table sits a group of 4 men who are not part of the imperial family. They are likely senators or other members of the Roman elite who have been invited to the banquet as guests of honor. Like the emperors, they are dressed in fine clothes, and they too are unarmed. This is a sign of trust between the emperors and the other men. If there were any assassins among the guests, they would have been identified and eliminated before the dinner began. On the far side of the table is an array of dishes filled with food and drink. The centerpiece is a silver platter with a crown on top, which contains the most expensive and prestigious dish of the meal. Around the platter are bowls filled with fruit, nuts, and other snacks. Goblets of wine are placed next to each dish, and a slave stands behind the table holding more goblets. The food on display is a mix of Roman and exotic cuisine. The main dish is probably a roasted peacock, which is a symbol of Rome's imperial power. Other dishes contain seafood, poultry, and game, as well as fruit and vegetables from the Roman provinces. Wine is served from amphoras, and the goblets are made of gold and silver. The banquet is truly a display of Rome's wealth and power, as well as the emperor's personal extravagance. But it's not just about the food, it's also about the company. The emperors are surrounded by some of the most powerful and influential men in Rome. They are engaged in conversation, laughter, and debate, and they are enjoying the finest food and drink that the empire has to offer. For the emperors, this banquet is a chance to relax and enjoy themselves. It's a chance to take a break from the responsibilities of ruling an empire and to focus on the pleasures of life. But it's also a chance to network and build alliances. The emperors are not just eating with their friends and family, they are also meeting potential allies and making deals that will benefit them in the future. As we look around the rest of the dining hall, we see even more signs of luxury and excess. Laurel wreaths hang from the ceiling, along with garlands of flowers and the skins of exotic animals. Torches are placed in wall sconce to provide flickering golden light that dances across the marble walls and columns. The room is decorated with frescoes and statues depicting scenes from Roman mythology and history. In the center of the room is a fountain that adds a soothing sound to the party. Everything about the dining hall screams wealth and power. It's a place where the emperors can relax and enjoy themselves, surrounded by the trappings of their power. In the background, we see several servants standing by the table. Some are pouring wine, while others are serving food. A slave is also standing nearby with a platter of fruit. Despite their important role in the feast, the servants are dressed in simple tunics, and they stand in the background so as not to distract from the emperors and other guests. Their presence is a reminder that even the most powerful people in the empire rely on the labor of others. To the sides of the table, we see two groups of musicians playing various instruments, including a lyre, a kithara, and a double flute. They are dressed in simple white tunics, and they are not part of the imperial family or the guests. Music was an important part of Roman banquets, and it was customary for musicians to perform for the amusement of the guests. The music they played was likely a mix of Roman and Greek songs and dances, as well as new compositions that were popular in Rome. Music was not just a form of entertainment at Roman banquets, it was also a way of setting the mood and creating an atmosphere of celebration and good cheer. Despite the festive atmosphere, there is a sense of foreboding that hangs over the scene. The emperors are seated in a semicircle at the head of the table, which is a defensive posture. This was a common tactic used by Roman generals when they met with foreign leaders. By keeping the other leaders to the sides, the Romans ensured that they had the advantage in case a fight broke out. In addition, the emperors are dressed in their finest clothes and jewelry, which makes them look rich and powerful, but also vulnerable. Being rich and powerful made the emperors targets for assassins. They knew this and took precautions to protect themselves at all times. We can see the beginnings of these precautions in the scene with the musicians. Each musician is accompanied by a bodyguard. These bodyguards are dressed in black and carry swords, daggers, and shields. They are armed and ready to defend their charge if necessary. We can also see bodyguards near the table, standing behind the chairs of the emperors and other important guests. They are a constant presence at the banquet, always ready to protect the emperor from harm. Even the food and drink at the banquet are a potential source of danger. Food and drink were often poisoned during the Julio-Claudian period. It was not uncommon for emperors to suspect that their food or drink had been poisoned, and they would have it tasted by a slave before eating it. This was a precaution that Augustus had taken in the past, and it was something that his successors would continue to do. In this painting, we can see a slave standing behind the table holding a plate with a red liquid. This is the emperor's drink, and it has been laced with poison just moments before. The slave who brought the drink is now lying dead on the floor, having taken the poison himself after delivering it. All of these precautions and dangers create a sense of tension and paranoia at the banquet. The emperors and other guests are constantly on edge, always looking over their shoulders and wondering who might be plotting against them. This tension is heightened by the fact that the banquet is taking place in a closed room with no windows or exits. The only way to get out of the room is through a secret passageway that leads to the emperor's private apartments. This passageway is disguised as a bookshelf, and it allows the emperor to escape in case of an emergency. However, it also means that the guests are trapped in the room with the emperors and cannot escape if they wanted to. This creates a feeling of claustrophobia and paranoia, as the guests know that they are at the mercy of the emperors. If the emperors wanted to, they could easily have the guests killed without any way for them to escape. This painting shows a pivotal moment in ancient Roman history. It captures the extravagance and decadence of the Julio-Claudian dynasty and the paranoia and violence that characterized their rule. The feast is a microcosm of the empire itself, with its opulence and its dangers. The emperors are at the center of this world, and they are surrounded by those who both envy and fear them. The painting is a reminder of the fragility of power and the constant struggle for control that defined the Roman Empire. It is also a testament to the artistry of the old masters who were able to capture the grandeur and the brutality of the Roman world. Thank you so much for watching.